So many people spend their whole lives following the expectations of others and they don't realize. It was never a case of now I've made it. And that was really one of the big issues in my 20s. I was really desperate to prove to the world that I was good enough to try to get over the insecurities as a young man that I was afraid that I wasn't.
Do you feel like that's the person you're coaching today, the person that doesn't know when to stop?
It's certainly one of the people that, certainly on the private clients, I get a lot of people that come to me because they've spent their life chasing the more and they're still not there. I got so much respect for a lot of the girls out there. They have so many expectations growing up. Yeah, society puts on an expectation. This is historical.
So how do you help them? What's the process to work with you? What do you do for somebody if they're going through these challenges?
The first things to do is to understand that you are the star of your own movie. Everybody else plays only one of two roles. Either at best they may be a supporting cast. Nobody really cares enough about you to bother to give an opinion. Why? Because they're too busy being worried about what they think you're thinking of them in their movie.
How many books have you written?
Some have been co-authored, but probably the most impactful book that went kind of number one in 4 hours is called The Inside Track. Interesting story, I'll give you the cliff notes. It's the 11 private letters that I wrote to my elite coaching students from prison.
And what do you mean from prison? You were a prisoner? All right, welcome to another episode of the Building Your Own Economy Show. Today's guest, Peter Sage, is an incredible dude. I learned so much from this event, like how he spent 6 months in prison, and that changed his life. He wrote a best-selling book because of it, and he shared with me so many insights to what he's done to help transform his own life, but also the lives of so many others through his teaching. So help me welcome Mr. Peter Sage. All right, Peter. Well, welcome to the show, Peter. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing awesome, David. Great to be here. Looking forward to our chat.
All right, Peter, tell me, where are you from, my man?
Well, originally from England, but I am actually coming to you from the Canary Islands, Tenerife, just off the west coast of Africa. That's where I live now.
What are you doing, or what do you do out there? Talk to me.
Well, I mean, I moved here for sunshine, to be honest with you. I'm from England. Yeah, I never saw the sun until I was 12, And we live in a time in history where you can work from anywhere. So I thought, why not work from somewhere you love? So moved out here, and right now I do mainly online coaching, training, workshops, that kind of stuff.
Cool. Who do you train? Who are your clients?
Entrepreneurs or people that are generally stuck. And I think we share a similar philosophy of people that really need to understand the difference between a life-chasing success versus a life-chasing fulfillment. And really just making that distinction to really help people live more of the dream that they are trying to get to, but now.
Really? So how did you come to this career path? What were you doing before this?
Well, my background is typical serial entrepreneur. I dropped out of school at 16. I got no formal qualifications. Started my first business at 17. 27 companies since then. Some have failed spectacularly. Some have been international success stories. Some should have stayed ideas when I was drunk. Pretty much everything in between. So really for me, I've been 33 years unemployable, and essentially, really just now make my living on helping other people be better at what they do.
All right, cool. So give me one of your most successful businesses. Talk to me. What was one of the most successful businesses you had?
Oh wow, well. To be fair, they've all been in different industries. My industry is business as an entrepreneur. So I've had a successful chain of health clubs, nutraceutical company, everything from anti-aging to printing to, you could pick so many different aspects, mail order, publishing.
Did you exit any of these like with a multiple like so great that you were like, I can just do whatever I want?
No, I did exit and I did pretty well, but it was never a case of now I've made it. And that was really one of the big issues in my 20s. It was like, I was really desperate to prove to the world that I was good enough to try to get over the insecurities as a young man that I was afraid that I wasn't. And so, you think, when I make my first million, then I'll be happy. then I'll have made it. And of course, you make your first million, and what happens? Now you realize that you actually need 2 million in case you lose the first.
Yep.
You know, and that never ends. So, yeah, everybody thinks they have a number, but in my experience, a lot of people get to the top of that success mountain and they want to jump off because they don't like the view.
Do you feel like that's the person you're coaching today, the person that doesn't know when to stop? Is that what you're looking to help?
It's certainly one of the people that, certainly on the private clients, I get a lot of people that come to me because, they've spent their life chasing the more and they're still not there. I work with people worth $700 million. They're on antidepressants because they're not a billionaire. The game never ends.
Well, that's interesting. Do you think that, I mean, maybe there's a correlation that you've seen, because if I was making $700 million or a net worth of $700 million, I think the difference between those who, I guess, go into depression and those who don't, I would just guess, is how they got there. Would you say that might be a true statement?
I think what's probably more common, that certainly plays a role. But I think what's more common is the fact that they're chasing a setting sun, or what I call that they're running east looking for a sunset. And what they're doing is they're blaming their shoes, they're blaming their personal trainer, they're blaming their diet. And I thought, if only I run fast enough, I'll finally get my sunset. All right? And well, no, it's never going to happen. And if you are working so hard to try to get somewhere, whenever you get where you think you were going, the horizon has moved.
Yeah, targets move. Targets always move.
So it's you're essentially looking for external validation to cover up an internal insecurity.
Interesting.
Whenever you do that, you're never going to arrive at the destination that you think.
What do you find that external validation typically comes from? Is it like, or not comes from? Who is it to? To people, family, friends? Who are they usually aligning that to?
A lot of the time, it's one of two. It's either something close to home. Yeah, parents, classic.
Dad, mommy, daddy.
Yeah, or my elder brother, which I've been playing catch up with my whole life. When I'm as old as my elder brother, then I'll feel fulfilled. Is kind of the subtext, or a general feeling of inadequacy because they make the mistake of tying their self-worth to their net worth, and as a result of that, they never feel adequate enough, so they keep going.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I guess I haven't had that problem yet. I guess people would probably say at some small level I probably would have that problem, but I haven't had a big enough problem for it to matter, I guess. Sounds like you've got some very successful people, and I'm just trying to, I'm just another squirrel trying to find a nut,
Yeah. And to be fair, I get a lot of career people, career moms, and women are a great example. And I got so much respect for a lot of the girls out there that they have so many expectations growing up. Yeah, society puts on an expectation. This is historical. We're gratefully shifting away from that at a rapid pace. But a lot of women right now that are sort of middle-aged to retirement, they grew up with an expectation of, make sure that you get a career so you don't have to rely on a man. Yeah, but at the same time, make sure you get a good man, right? And then make sure that you can have enough kids, and therefore make sure you're a good enough mom so they'll look after the kids so they go to college. And then they get to an age of where they're kind of like, the kids are left, and society now says, we don't have any more expectations from you. We're working on the generation before you to run the same path. And they're sat there thinking, what the hell do I do now?
That's a pretty interesting, as you said that, I could think of a few women I know that are in that kind of, I don't know, that bubble, I guess you would say, and they fit into that characteristic of a woman that's stuck there. I could see that as well. That's interesting. So you coach a lot of these types of people.
Yeah, I would say probably 65% of my clients are women, and a lot of the time they're just looking for a sense of meaning. It's like, wow, I did all the right things. I ticked the right box. Who am I now when I look in the mirror? What was it for? Where am I? Where's my sense of who I am? And a lot of them get into the coaching industry or the therapist, healers, trainers, because they've been trained their whole life to take care of other people. So now they're finally actually creating an income out of that on their own terms for themselves, for following their own true north. And that's where I get a lot of my trainers and coaches themselves to come in from, people that followed that path.
I see that. You just made me think of one girl that I know who is in like her 40s, late 40s, and has gone through, her children are gone, and now she's connected to Zen and wants to touch the ground every day, and she doesn't know what to do with her life because she's apparently met her whole purpose, and now she wants to help people heal. And I'm just like, I can see what you're saying now. It all makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's
I don't
nothing
mean to
wrong
laugh
with
at
that.
her. It's just more like you called it so well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's a shame because, again, it's so many people spend their whole lives following the expectations of others and they don't realize.
I could see that. Well, I mean, I think that there are some normal expectations, like for men, and women. I think there is normal. I think that maybe, I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but I would say that I don't think that people follow all expectations, but from an outside perspective, I think there's probably some foundational things that have to be done, good parenting and raising good kids. But I guess aside from that is they probably put away what they would have done normally to do those things, is what you're saying, right? They give up and sacrifice what they would have normally done.
Well, there's a difference between following your truth and giving your gift to the world versus, well, I'll become a lawyer because my society says that's a better job, or my mom and dad will be more approving, or it's a case of, oh, well, okay, I need my kids to go to college in order to be a good parent. Well, no, you need to be able to give your kids self-esteem in order to be able to be a good parent, and what they choose to do with that is down to them. If you can control what you can control, if you're validating yourself by external circumstances you can't control, you're setting yourself up to fail.
I can see that. Well, that's cool. So how do you help them? What's the process to work with you? What do you do for somebody if they're going through these challenges?
One of the first things to do is to understand that you are the star of your own movie. And a lot of people have grown up acting as an unpaid film extra or support cast in other people's movies. Whether that's as an employee or having to do the right thing for their partner or the world or whatever it may be, the narrative is that they forget that they star in a movie. And I know that they star. I know you star in your movie called David's Movie. Why? Because you're the only person that's in every single scene of your movie. Right? So I know you're the star. And what most people do is they spend their whole life swimming in what I call goop, the good opinion of other people.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good.
And when you realize that as the star of your movie, everybody else plays only one of two roles. Either at best, they may be a supporting cast, husband, wife, spouse, sibling, best friend, employer, what have you. But the vast majority of your people in your movie are nothing more than film extras. And the definition of a film extra is somebody who you're no longer thinking about when they're not in your current scene.
Interesting.
And so the mistake people make, David, is that because we see ourselves a lot of times the star of our own movie, but we make the mistake of thinking other people see us as the star of our movie. And of course they don't, because they're not in our movie. They're in a different movie. They're in their own movie. So if we are constantly adapting our behavior, not from a place of being authentic, but from a place of, say, external validation or fitting into what we believe to be the default movie script rather than creating our own, then what we're essentially doing is forgetting that nobody really cares enough about you to bother to give an opinion. Why? Because they're too busy being worried about what they think you're thinking of them in their movie. Everybody's playing the same game. Everyone's walking around in their bubble of self-importance, being worried about what they think everybody else is thinking of them in their bubble of self-importance, not realizing that everybody in their bubble of self-importance is being worried about what you think of them in their bubble of self-importance. And when that bubble bursts, when people get that, they wake up, the empowerment, the social expectations that drop off. Doesn't mean you don't care. It means you can now work on being the star of your movie rather than worrying about what you think everyone's thinking of you. And that's a whole different game of empowerment.
Freedom gives you freedom to see yourself, be yourself, do yourself. That's pretty interesting. So you walk somebody through that empowerment framework. Is that what you do?
Yes, and part of it is based on part of it is deconstructing the limitations and beliefs that most of people have, even the unconscious ones. And a lot of that, as I'm sure you're aware, being in the business you're in, is the relationship to money. So many people have a disempowering relationship to money, and mainly because how we form most of our unconscious behavior happens before we're 7 years old.
That's right.
And that's because we operate at that point from a neuroscientific perspective at a brainwave state called theta, which is anywhere from kind of like 4 to 7 cycles per second. And at that point, our critical mind is shut down. The beta aspect of the frontal lobe, the critical thinking, doesn't get turned on until we're about 7. And that's pretty smart from evolution, because we don't have enough experience to make critical decisions till we're 7. So we essentially have mirror neurons to copy and believe everything our parents tell us, or our environment at that point supports us with. That's why kids that live in theta, which is the same place where we dream, we suspend critical thinking, which is why you can see a deceased relative in a dream and you don't question it. It's like, hey, there's Uncle Fred. What's he doing here? He died 10 years ago. Well, no, it's you don't question that in a dream, because you don't operate at critical thinking of beta. You're down at theta. And so if you were growing up and you saw your mom and dad fighting over money, or you were told that money doesn't grow on trees, that you've got to work hard to get it, because they were the beliefs from your parents, you're going to, let's just say you saw mom and dad fighting over money. You're going to link the subject of money to fear and lack of connection. So when you start getting more of it, you're going to self-sabotage, give it away, or you're never going to be able to have a relationship where you appreciate the money you have and you don't know why. So there's a lot of deconstructing that in terms of people's limiting beliefs. And it could be around money, it could be around relationships, it could be around health, and really just auditing that as a way to get a baseline. And then coming to a place of how we can then rebuild. So that's essentially what the process does.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. So how many patients, clients, what do you define them as? Clients, customers?
The main program that I have is a 6-month program. It's called the Elite Mentorship Forum, and it's an amazing community. I'm very proud of it. We have several thousand members in there.
Wow.
Generally speaking, around students of my work, paid students. We're at about 70,000 paid students.
Congrats.
Thank you. And obviously many tens of millions of people that have either watched my TED Talks or bought my books or downloaded stuff around those.
What's your how many books you written?
We're just putting my latest one together, actually, but the last few have been, some have been co-authored with some of the top names in the world, like Jack Canfield, Marshall Goldsmith. But probably the most impactful book that I've had that went kind of number 1 in 4 hours is called The Inside Track. Inside Track. And it's a very interesting story. I'll give you the cliff notes.
Go ahead.
It's the 11 private letters that I wrote to my elite coaching students from prison.
And what do you mean from prison? You were a prisoner?
I did 6 months in the most violent jail in England as the only non-criminal. Never been arrested, never been accused of a crime, never found guilty, no criminal record. It was actually a civil action that I was on the wrong end of, a contempt of court application. I was fighting a multi-billion-dollar company over a multi-million-dollar deal we'd done years before, and they threw a contempt of court application at me. I didn't see it as a threat. I thought it as a chess move. I didn't give it any credibility. And they sold it to the judge. This is 5 years ago. And gave me 6 months as a civil prisoner. Lost everything.
Whoa.
And not only that, I mean, the company was HP, by the way. So, deep pockets. And it was a contractual dispute that I thought they were just bullying me for, which I wasn't prepared to accept. And they threw their lawyers, $100 million firm, ruthless Princess Diana's divorce lawyers. And I was on I was on a state-appointed attorney because they froze my accounts.
Wow.
And that only went one way. Anyway, long story short, I ended up going to jail for 6 months, unsegregated. So I was the only non-criminal, but I was still, I was sharing a cell with, high-category prisoners. And I decided to, you talk about control the controllables. I knew that I'm very fortunate the last quarter century, tens of thousands of people have benefited from my work. But maybe the people that could benefit the most never get to see it because they're in somewhere like jail. They don't get to see podcasts like this. They don't get to work with people like you, for example, David. So, I thought the universe was clearly sending a message to put me into a place where I could help people I wouldn't normally be able to help. And I went in not as a prisoner. That wasn't my identity. Yes, I went in as a secret agent of change. And
you identified. I get you.
And I physically, to everybody else, I'd lost everything. And I went in there and went to work using whatever limited skills I have to try to help people. And long story short, I ended up getting a lot of the prisoners off drugs. I was stopping suicides. I redesigned the intake system to reduce violence between the wings. It's now being used in prisons all over the world. I won a national award for the work that I did. And every 2 weeks, as I said, I wrote to my students, part journal, part tradecraft, part breaking down interventions, part trying to show them how I was dealing with losing everything and still trying to smile, and the techniques that I was using. And it's literally those 11 letters that when I came out, they said, this helps us more than your programs, You've got to publish it and help the world. And so I did, and that became the Inside Track, which has won multiple awards on its own as a book. And it's been quoted by some of the biggest names in personal growth as the best personal growth in writing. And I'm very humbled by that.
I was trying to look it up because I feel like I felt like I've got your book. I don't know why I feel like I do, but I was trying to find it because
it's on Amazon on there, or getpetesbook.com. You can grab it from there too. But the Inside Track, Peter Sage. And if you read the reviews, you'll get an idea. It's changed the life of pretty much everybody that's read the book. Again, very, very humbling experience.
Let me see. The Inside Track. I found it. No, I don't have it, but I am about to get it. There you go. Well, I usually buy a lot of things on Audible.
It's on Audible. On there. Yeah, in fact, not only that, I wanted to create, because a lot of people, there you go. Hey, outstanding. I wanted to create something that would, not only be inspiring, but I hired a top sound engineer. There's a original musical score with the Audible. It's my voice. I'm reading the whole thing. Because I wanted you to get the real intonation, the emotions that I was feeling at the time. And I'm very raw. I talk about the times that I cried. I talk about the times that I felt, I wasn't making a difference. That I thought I'd lost everything, all of the challenges. It's very open and raw. I wanted to be transparent and authentic. Because again, this wasn't written after the fact, which is where the imagination can do a lot of editing. This is unfolding. I don't know what's happening letter to letter. I don't know what's going to happen the next day. So you go on that journey with me. It's quite powerful.
Wow, man. This is incredible. Well, I didn't know that. So you sold a lot of those books. But you said you've written several books. Are any of the others as impactful? Maybe we could talk about one of those.
Yeah, I mean, my first best-selling book was only in Japanese. And I have no idea what it says. That's an interesting angle as well. I used to do a lot of talks in Japan. I had a promoter that brought me over there. And they bought one of the top book publishers in Japan and the book editors. Out of 80,000 books published that year, he had 2 in the top 10. It was a beautiful soul. And he came and sat in the front row of one of my workshops. We did a 1,000-people seminar in Japan. And he sat in the front row, arms folded, kind of didn't want to be there, but had kind of been bought by my promoter. And over the course of the day, his arms came unfolded. He got engaged. He's like, and there's an exercise where he burst into tears. And at the end, he came up in the green room where my promoter brought him in. And says, my God, that's incredible. I have to help you write your book. I'm like, dude, I haven't got time to write my name. All right, I am on an international schedule. My current fixed address is 35,000 feet. I'm like, he says, no, you've been here for several years. You've got audio products that you've done. Let me transcribe it. So he transcribed 3,000 pages of my work on audio and talks that I'd done and edited it into a 500-page book on how to master your life. And again, sold 150,000 copies, went #1 in Japan, and it's beautifully illustrated. And to this day, I actually don't know what's in it because I have the Japanese copy. I just don't read Japanese.
Yeah, all those symbols and shit that you're just like, I don't understand.
might be how to teach your mother-in-law sushi. I have no idea. But yeah, but no, I've been very grateful. I mean, reading is a dying art for a lot of people. I mean, we've already heard, many times that, leaders are readers. But in today's fast-paced world, most people don't exercise the muscle. Their distraction muscles are too easy to exercise on, anti-social media, as I call it. And
I agree with that.
yeah, so I am putting a new book out soon, which is essentially a biohack on how to drop your brain waves, not into theta, but into alpha. Because stress comes from beta. Yeah, we know that. We live in beta. Beta is where the outer world is more important than your inner world, more your focus. If you can get to a point where you can drop into a contemplative state, where you can literally pull the trap door on cortisol out of the bloodstream, where you can actually get access to more intuition, you can get access to more gut feel, and you can actually navigate your way through from a place of calm confidence. That would be a real superpower for a lot of people these days that are struggling and trying to figure it out and not doing well. And that's really my next book, which will be out and several months from now. We're still in the prelim stages, but it's going to be called 6 Seconds In, because it starts with a breathing technique that shows you how to breathe in for 6 seconds and out for 6 seconds for 2 minutes, in order to be able to drop cortisol and access the brain waves, or almost shoehorn the brain into an alpha state. It's a super powerful product.
Sounds like a Wim Hof kind of.
Well, Wim, and I have an ice bath here in my gym. But Wim's very good in terms of being able to build physical resilience around immunity. And there's cold plunges and the Wim Hof breathing to train your brain's carbon dioxide receptors to shift, gives you an edge, certainly in the physical. But a lot of people need help in the non-physical.
No, I agree with that.
And that's what this is designed to do. You make far better decisions. We've all heard it. Grandma saying, never, count to 10 and breathe before you make decisions if you're angry, right? Never make a decision that has long-term consequences from a short-term emotion. That's why I don't have tattoos.
Reminds me of like the 5-second rule, or.
And what Mel does with the 5-second rule is predominantly about how to take action. Yeah. What I'm looking at here is, how do you recenter and rebalance yourself so that you can access your own innate level of wisdom? Because ultimately, and I'm sure you agree with this, David, you've been around the block, we all have, that 9 times out of 10, your first gut feel on something is right. But we then bring in our mind, our experience, our fears, our beliefs, our doubts, our whatever, and the mind's job is to always justify. What do I mean by that? It's here to justify your current, your actions to be in alignment with your current emotional state. Meaning, if the alarm goes off at 6 a.m. and you've got to get up and you don't feel like it, its job is to find the excuse. Now, whether you act on that is different. Yep. If you're angry, right, it'll tell you why you shouldn't apologize. It'll justify why it's the other person's fault, right? Your mind will always justify. So knowing how to get that to a state where your heart and mind are actually aligned and shaking hands rather than having a wedge between them is essentially what this technique does, and it allows you to follow your truth and star in your movie.
Wow, man. Well, this is very interesting to me. I'd love to get a copy of that book, so you got to let me know when it's out. I'll share them with my audience. How can somebody get a hold of you if they're looking to get some coaching or some insights from you?
Website, petersage.com. I put a lot of stuff out on social to help as many people as I can for free, because some people obviously are at times where it's hard for them to actually invest in themselves financially. But as long as you want to invest the time, I've got a lot of stuff on my social for that. If you want to take things forward, obviously, and actually step up the game, then we've got different programs that suit different people for where they're at. But either way, I'm just here to try to help. But you can find me online pretty much anywhere. But petersage.com is a great resource.
Awesome. Well, Peter, man, this has been a fun interview. I'm super, super pumped. Really, I am about the book, man. You seem like you're really changing lives, and the things that you've done and overcome are very, very powerful, man. So thank you so much for your time today, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
No, my pleasure. Thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, man.